Good morning, everybody. It is championship week. It is the grind that we do all season long. It is the culmination of everything. It is the eyes on the prize. It is the finale. It's the whole shebang. And we're going to give you your freaking what we need to get you to go here in about 30 seconds, guys. That just has a special ring to it, especially on championship day, championship Sunday. If you're anything like me, you avoided a lot of the landmines that were out there on Thursday and Saturday. Not a whole lot to really worry about today. And what you do have to worry about, we are here to get you where you want to go. Make sure you're following at Triple Play Fantasy. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, do all that fun stuff. On my left, my man Joe. Joe, how are we doing this morning?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. With the way the NFL does the schedule now, you're in Super Bowl week and you've had these wave of games, especially with Christmas week the way it was too. And it's like an exercise in the willpower to just not start your guys that you have going, and you're holding out and you're holding out. And I'm looking at some of these Super Bowls and, one guy's got 3 guys left to play and the other guy's only had 2. So it's an interesting dynamic following some of these Super Bowl matchups this year with the way the NFL schedule is.
Yeah, it was crazy. There's a lot of games that are already really close to trying to be decided. You had a lot of maybe Bo Nix. I know like you said, holding back. I wanted to start Devon Vele in a few leagues last night. Held back. Really glad I did. It wouldn't have panned out to be anything over what I was looking for because I needed some home runs. That's why I was looking at the guy going, well, maybe we might need that. Beside the point, down below, my man Jeff. Jeff, how are we doing today? Ready to join us, man? Excited.
Doing well, bro. As always on Sunday morning, time to get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans. And yes, it is Championship Sunday, but let's not forget it is also consolation prize third place Sunday. So let's keep that in mind for all those folks who did not make it but are still hoping out that they can come in third and either get in the money or go for a high draft pick. What the hell knows? Anyway,
we'll call those guys new listeners. That's what we'll call those guys. Go ahead and get with some of the questions and comments here. We got our man Joe checking in first. He says, here we go, Championship Sunday. We are here to answer your questions for the most important fantasy week of the year, and that is exactly correct, man. Joe laying it out there ahead of time, getting pretty excited, pre-excited. I definitely was there. I was listening to Europe's The Final Countdown and shit, man. I was getting pumped up. We got Trans-Siberian. He says, hey, guys, first, what is your take on splitting the cash in the championship? Jeff, lead us off here. I bet you got some passion about this.
Dude, I really like that question, man. I always get to see Trans-Siberian checking in, and hello to Mrs. Trans-Siberian. Again, Joe did not show up shirtless, so we'll carry that over to next season. But what you have is, so I've done both, right? And I can see that an opinion on both, but I say don't split it, man. You're either the best or you're not. And when it comes down to championship week, don't chop it, man. It's kind of one of those, you either got to be confident in your team or just take second place. Don't chop it. I don't like how that goes.
What do you say here, Joe?
Was I the only one who? Am I on mushrooms, or did we just have a technical difficulty?
I only saw you kind of flapping out right there. Everything else.
Wow, maybe it was me then.
So I think it's down to you, luckily, or unfortunately, I don't know.
Either or. It sounded like a robot there for a moment. It's a really good question. In all my leagues, there's some years where some people do that. I think familiarity with the other person you're playing probably plays a little bit into whether or not somebody throws out that question. As the commissioner, I've had people come to me and say, hey, is it cool if I ask this guy if he wants to split it prior to the game? You still get the Super Bowl champion, so the bragging rights are still allocated appropriately. There's still only one name put on the trophy, but you got a big money league. I can understand the allure of potentially splitting in advance and kind of taking a little bit of the stress out of it. However, if I think I'm the better team, I'm not offering a split.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, if I'm sitting there with the quarterback that let's say I got here with Jalen Hurts, right? Like, let's say I got to the championship with Jalen Hurts, and right now I'm facing Josh Allen with, pulling the name out the hat, like Kenny Pickett, right? Yeah. Like, okay, so I got Kenny Pickett in my waivers. Yes, but do I feel real good about this? I think in a situation like that, I might be a little bit more up for an offering it's as opposed to, like, say if I had Jaden Daniels and we're heading head to head right now. So I'm thinking on that one, it's going to be very, very mode dependent. I'm not against it for sure. I think that's what you guys want to do. Do what you want to do. That's one thing as a commissioner of a lot of leagues that I always say to my kids, it's whatever you guys want to do. As long as we don't have any collusion. And most of the time the money's tied up. You don't want it to. You want that money, So there's a lot of things like that where you just don't ever see it go down, and a lot of times that does draw up the word collusion. But again, man, I'm thinking that's going to be a case by case scenario. But overall, I don't mind it when people do it.
As a commissioner, real quick, I'll tell you what's more. I'd rather come around what most leagues do for the third place. Like, are most leagues these days doing what Jeff mentioned earlier, that third place consolation game between the two semifinal losers? Are more leagues still gravitating towards like most regular season points scored or best regular season record is the third prize? Would you see, Mike, this year for third place?
For third place, a lot of times, and what's crazy is typically the only way I've ever seen it is where you get your buy-in back, basically, so whatever your buy-in is, you get your buy-in back for the next season, and that's, you don't really get any determination after that. Everything is after that. Kind of said actually by first, second, third, fourth. Most of my redraft leagues, though, we don't do anything special or certain for draft order, right? We don't do a whole lot for like draft things or anything like that. It's just always a randomized draft order, which I kind of think sucks. And in the other leagues, like I said, it's kind of dictated more by regular season schedule than it is by playoff schedule. Playoffs dictates who you gets paid. Regular season dictates how seeding is involved for the next season.
I got you.
For sure. And then so Trans-Siberian, again, man, we love you. We're so glad you're here again. He says, Nico, he says, JSN shit the bed. I'm thinking of sitting AJ. So B-Rob Jr., Williams, Detroit, or Shakir at the flex. He's ahead 91-70, but he has Allen, Bigsby, Jefferson. I have Hawk, Miami, D-State. Randy, you're done. Jeff, go ahead and lead us off right here.
Well, for the Nico JSN thing, I tell you, and Joe hit it on it a little bit. The NFL scheduling, man, has really effed with fantasy football studs like Nico or JSN. I mean, you want to talk about one of the more boring games ever? What was that, 6-3? The Chiefs played 3 times in a matter of 10 days or a lot or whatever it may be, but it's just really odd, and you got to stay on top of things, I suppose. It might be great for the NFL's wallet, but really it just kind of messes with the players. They don't get the rest they should, and then you have performances that's going to run flat,
31-2?
Yeah, which is one of the more bizarre scores I've ever seen in my life, right? When was the last time you ever seen, it's anything to 2 is just odd, period, that you only get 2 points from a safety, but I digress. So I tell you, I get where your head's at as far as sitting AJ, and so you're looking at Brian Robinson Jr., Jameson Williams, or Khalil Shakir. I mean, of those, I certainly understand why you would think or why you would lean to sit A.J. Brown. I wouldn't necessarily do it for those guys. If you're going to do that, I would say maybe sit him for Brian Robinson Jr. Outside of that, I wouldn't sit him for anybody else. The only reason I would say it is because we always go with running back over wide receiver, everything else being equal, just because of touches, the potential of touches being more for the running back than the wide receiver. But I would stick with A.J. Brown at home, division game. Philly's still got a big stake in things. You never know what's going to happen with Detroit. They could end up, man, who knows? So I would stick with AJ, but if you're going to dump him, I'd go Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. Right off the bat, Brian Robinson Jr. to me is like the biggest head scratcher of the week because he came back from injury. Eckler's out. He went back to getting his touchdowns and playing the role he did. Then he had that game last week, no yardage, 2 fumbles. But Eckler's still out, so it's not like they've got a ton behind him. You would assume he goes back to normal this week, but I'm doing the same thing. I have him in my Super Bowl, and I'm looking at, do I go with Garendo or whatever his name is from the 49ers now that we know he's playing, or what do I do with Robinson? But he's kind of helped get us there because he's quietly been pretty solid when healthy, and he's been a touchdown machine too. It is crazy. Nico went like 3 for 59 this week. JSN went 3 for 33. It was his worst game by over 40 yards since October 20th. So it wasn't even it is so by far his worst game since October 20th. I don't understand that one at all. Even last night's game, I thought that Rams Cardinal game was going to be, I don't know, different, higher scoring. That Bengals game was low scoring too until the fourth quarter, and then obviously overtime. So I think to Jeff's point, I think that when you get these teams who play 3 games in 2 weeks or anytime you're just going from Sunday to Thursday or Thursday to Wednesday or whatever it was, I think it screws with everybody. But I don't know. I think in the end, I'm deciding that I'm going ride Brian Robinson Jr. I think I would lose a little bit of sleep if I benched him this week and then he had a good game. A.J. Brown is really hard with Pickett playing. They're probably going to get Barkley the ball a lot still because from what Jeff said, they're still playing. They're still playing for the 2 seed and potentially the 1 seed still, I think. On top of that, obviously, Barkley needs, 268 rushing yards, I think, to break the all-time record. So there's that also. They're coming off a loss to, and with Philly, if the Chiefs lost 2 games right now, I wouldn't bat an eye. But, Philly loses 2 in a row and somebody sneezes the wrong way in that locker room, and it could unravel the whole freaking thing like it did last year. So despite Pickett, I got to feel like they're still motivated. I don't know. I don't think I can sit AJ Brown this week either. I think I'm kind of with Jeff. I'm not afraid of Bigsby as far as what he has left. Allen's obviously and Jefferson. Bigsby doesn't do much for me. You got the Miami D and Hawkinson Hawkinson, right? I would imagine is what we're talking about there, Hawk.
Yeah.
I don't think you're done yet, buddy. I think you're still there. I think you still got a shot there. I think you just need that game from A.J. Brown.
So you brought up something in 1 sec, Mike, just real quick, and not to go off on a tangent, but Joe brought up the potential of Saquon Barkley breaking the record. Does that come with an asterisk next to it because Dickerson did it? I mean, did Dickerson do it in 16 games or 14 games? Because when you look at the Randy Moss record of 23 receiving touchdowns where he's won more than Jerry Rice, I'm almost positive Jerry Rice did 22 in 14 games, and Moss did it in 16. It did 23 in 16 games. So if Barkley does do this and does break that record, is there an asterisk next to it because of the extra game?
I've heard this question asked real quick. The one thing though is why didn't we ask this question when these records started getting broken at the 16 game point? Because to your point, you were in 14 games back in the 70s, and I don't even know when that changed, to be honest. I find it funny that it's only coming up now with the change from 16 to 17. What do you think, Mikey?
I think that I think that it would have to. I mean, because if you got a guy that did it sooner, you almost have to lean that way. Like for me, with the asterisks, that sucks because the differences in the game. There's all kinds of things that Dickerson had to run up against that running backs today don't have to face, like headshots and things like that. They didn't really headhunt, or they really headhunted back in the day. Those guys had to take a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I think that's my opinion on that. Now on this one, Brian Robinson Jr. is a guy that I've kind of been leaning away from. Yeah. Every time that he's the guy he's the chain mover, right? He'll be the guy that'll get you first downs for sure. And if this is a point per first down league, I'm definitely in. But McMillan has been the guy scoring for that team. More often than Robinson Jr. I don't know that there's any guys that I feel more confident in the flex at this position. I think so. If it's between AJ Brown and these three, I'm definitely playing AJ Brown. If between those three with AJ Brown, even though maybe we're just kind of thinking about it, because I mean, come on, we got to play AJ Brown. Even with Kenny Pickett throwing the ball, he's gonna have to throw it to somebody. He's not a new enough quarterback that I'm like he's just gonna only throw it to the tight end. They are gonna throw it to the running back a lot, but I do think AJ Brown still gets 6-7 targets today. He can turn that into. I mean, it's not going to be anything legendary like he typically has, but 7 and 67 and a touchdown wouldn't be out of the question. And man, I feel like Shakir's the guy to play here over Brian Robinson Jr. Again, I just don't really have a lot of confidence in that guy, but these guys both go 2-1 Brian Robinson over all these guys.
Well, I think I read this question wrong, Mikey. I think you kind of spurred. So if we're talking about, is it we're going to sit AJ Brown? So tell me which guy to choose over AJ Brown, or is it we're sitting AJ Brown and then I have this decision at flex? Because to be clear, to your point, I'm not sitting AJ Brown for Robinson, Williams, or Shakir. I'm not doing that. I'm not. If it's picking between Robinson, Williams, and Shakir, that's really hard too. Shakir had a bad game last week, right? Like, wasn't it like kind of his first not great game in pretty much the whole freaking season?
He's had quite a few not great games out there. You know, he's not a guy that like shines week in, week out, but he's also a guy that to me has the higher potential out of all three of these guys. Because I believe he's half PPR. I think we're looking more for touchdowns when we're talking about Randy out there. So that's why, to me, I think Shakir's probably going to be your guy that gets you in the end zone right here. And, man, Nico, like, what did he miss? Like 3 touchdowns? Like, just barely missed 3 touchdowns. That was he should have had a monster game. JSN also had a few real good passes called back. So, it's just really bad luck, and especially to have that in the championship. But if you watched all 4 of those games, you're not alone, man. There's a lot of skill position players. Like my lady was saying, you know, like the other day or just yesterday, she's like, gosh, dang it, Bo Nix, you know, he needs to get – I'm like, dude, if your quarterback only gets 20 in your championship week, be glad, you know. Like you could be facing Jaden Daniels. You could be facing Josh Allen, you know. Teams that are in must-win situations with these dynamic quarterbacks and juicy matchups, like which is what you should be facing. Be glad about that 20 spot. Speaking of the lady, she actually messaged right here. She's on her way to Denver right now. She said, sit 1, Tajay Spears, Brian Robinson Jr., Ramondo Blackshear, or Tyrone Tracy. Which one are we sitting right here, guys? And Joe, lead us off.
Well, I like Spears this week with no Pollard, and they're playing Jacksonville. So I've got Spears in the DraftKings lineup, I think, for 5,400. And I actually picked him up. I picked him up for my Super Bowl, too, and I'm starting him because he was looking pretty good with Pollard playing. So I'm excited to see him today against Jacksonville. So I definitely like Spears. As long as we know Tracy's good to go. I mean, I think as much as it's great that he's kind of starting this week, I guess, I think I'm not putting my trust in Blackshear over those other guys yet. I would sit Blackshear. And I would kind of take I guess Robinson and Tracy may be considered safer choices. I think I like Spears the most out of all these guys this week, to be honest.
That's crazy because actually so if I had to rank these guys first to fourth right here, I'd actually say Tracy, Spears, and then I get a little murky around Robinson Jr. and Blackshear. But I feel like the touchdown potential is higher for Blackshear than it is for Robinson. I feel like if I need to hit a home run, I'm going to play Blackshear. If I'm looking for a safe bet, I'm going Robinson Jr. What do you say here, Jeff?
Well, I'll agree with you guys as far as how you rank him is concerned. And have we looked at Blackshear and what his salary is on DFS? Because that's probably a sneaky good play this week. So,
yeah, let me check that.
You know, so yes, I'll agree with you and how you guys laid it out. One thing that is in the back of my mind, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I'll tell you, man, we saw Shedeur Sanders. He had some giant logoed cleats on recently. And so it's you know, obvious that he's looking to go to the Giants, looking like they're going to get the number 1 pick. So in the back of their mind, do they really tank the game? Do they get any points at all? They're home against Indianapolis. I don't know. I part of me thinks the Giants just want to tank things just to get Shedeur Sanders and get Joe a new T-shirt instead of Tommy Cutler. So anyway, that's in the back of my mind about possibly sitting Tracy. But outside of that, I'll agree with your lineups there.
Yeah, I don't know what the Giants. It's interesting because I've heard. I saw that thing with Sanders and the cleats, but before that, the report was coming out that maybe he didn't want to play for the Giants and he'd rather play in Vegas. As a Giant fan, I don't know what I want as far as him or Ward goes. There is something exciting about getting Sanders. The Giants need something as a franchise. I mean, they've been as sleepy as a New York professional sports franchise can be for quite a long time now. So, in Indianapolis, they're still playing for a playoff spot, and we're going back to Joey Flacco today. So you got Joe Flacco fighting for a playoff spot as you got the Giants fighting for the number 1 draft pick. There's a lot of be interesting to see where the pull in that game goes.
A lot of interesting dynamics happening today. Yeah. Now, so to get it straight, you guys would both bench Blackshear, correct? That's the one you would sit?
Yeah, I would sit Blackshear here.
Yeah, yes. Outside of my conspiracy theory, if that happens, go sit Tracy. But yeah, I'd have to say Blackshear reluctantly, even though I have a sneaking suspicion.
Gotcha. And then Trans-Siberian, I'm not too sure what he meant by this, but he said he's with Jeff. I didn't crop $2,000. So
well, I think he meant chop as far as our first conversation was splitting the first place prize, between first and second there, but chopping them. Maybe they say crop over in why the fuck am I? Ukraine, Jesus. So maybe chop equals crop over there. I don't know. Crop to me is, kind of like you crop out a photo these days. I don't know. But I think that's what he's referring to.
Oh, okay. So he's going for it, man. That's my man, Trans-Siberian. That's what I love about you is that's a man after my own heart right there. Exactly. We go for it here. We go for it.
To answer Jeff's earlier question, good one too. Blackshear is 4K on DraftKings. So I mean, the guy's got 3 carries for 13 yards this year,
and 4,500 on FanDuel. So he's very cheap on both of those platforms right there. So I mean, for me, I think that's probably going to be a value for your money because they said damn spell check, so it must have been chop for sure. You definitely want to watch them spell checks right there. I hope he's doing all right. But yeah, 4,500, man, that's a hell of a value to have on that guy. Let's see here. We got Daniels versus Atlanta or Allen versus New York. What do you say here, Jeff?
Dude, this is such a tough one because both these guys have been monsters, especially recently. Allen had as good of a 2-game stretch as you're ever going to see, not necessarily last week, but the 2 previous weeks. I don't think we've seen anything like that from any player, for that matter, fantasy-wise, to have back-to-back weeks. I believe he was over 40 and over 50 in one of those games. But so Buffalo's at home against the Jets, and you got Washington at home versus Atlanta. I'm leaning out. It's literally like a 51-49. There's no bad choice in this, but I'm leaning Allen for a couple of reasons. Let's see what you guys think as far as this is concerned. So obviously the Bills still have a lot to play for. I think that Josh Allen wants to prove that he's the MVP. He's going up against Aaron Rodgers. I think would love to see or to embarrass Aaron Rodgers and make him look about, that big at the end of this game. So I can see a Buffalo 45-14 win here. So there you go, man. I like it, kid. So Daniel's going to put some points, but I think Allen is the play here. What do you guys think?
I'm sorry, I did that wrong. It's something like this.
It's a good problem to have, obviously. I don't know. I mean, so if you don't think Brian Robinson's bouncing back, that's more reason to start Daniels, I guess, in a way, right? Like, and they do still need to win. I had thought Washington clinched a playoff spot last week, but they didn't. Their win eliminated Dallas and San Francisco, but they haven't technically clinched yet. So they're going to be playing hard, as is Buffalo. I guess my only thing with Buffalo is like, and it's one not great fantasy game that Josh Allen had last week. However, like you have these games where James Cook does nothing, and then the next game, Cook goes for like 120 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they don't need to do a lot in the air. Also, I know here in Connecticut, it's raining like a son of a bitch today, and I feel like it's doing that all around the East Coast. So there might be some rain potential in that Buffalo game. I think I would probably go Daniels. And the reason being, in the end, Buffalo could win this game without Josh Allen being good. I don't think Washington can win their game without Jaden Daniels being good. Atlanta's still playing for something too. So as much as oh God, it's so cringe to I don't know. I'm saying this, and how can you bench Josh Allen?
Well, I'll throw this at you, and because this came from a buddy of mine last night. So he's got both. It's not a 2-quarterback league, so it's just one or the other. But I'm almost positive, Chris. Maybe if you're watching, if you want to drop a comment, and I'm almost positive he also has Cook as one of his starting running backs. So if Cook is a starting running back, do you then go Daniels because of that?
Yeah, I do. Plus, Trans-Siberian, who, he's like our 4th member here, just gave us a very valuable Buffalo weather update. High wind warnings in Orchard Park, rain off and on, significant wind all game long. Buffalo is one of the only few places where that really can impact the passing game. So I'm not messing with any weather in my Super Bowl. I'm playing it. I guess it's the safer. I don't know what you would call it here. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels.
I don't mind that. I actually, so as much Josh Allen stuff as I've been throwing up here, I feel like Daniels might be the play. Josh Allen, now with Josh Allen, weather doesn't affect him very much as far as, unless you've got 10 feet of snow out there, they don't play very well in that. But outside of that, Josh Allen is an all-weather quarterback. The guy did 4 years in Wyoming. Wyoming winter is unlike anything that's experienced almost anywhere else. I'm sure that, North Dakota might have a thing there too to say about that, but outside of that, dude, Wyoming is probably one of the hardest places to play football, and Josh Allen once again did it for 4 years. So for me, weather doesn't affect it, but dude, I do feel like Daniels is going to be something special today. I think he's got that Commanders team finally kind of clicking off all cylinders. I feel bad for you if you're like me, who's facing McLaurin and probably, gosh dang, about 10 championships today. I'm looking over at Saquon and I'm looking over at McLaurin, knowing dude, those are the leagues I'm playing Blackshear in, right? Because I know that if I play Robinson Jr., sure, that guy's going to get me 10 to 12 points. I'm fairly confident in the fact that he's going to get me those points, but I need 50. So I'm going to go with Blackshear because I know that guy might accidentally just pop off, hit a few touchdowns, and give me 50 points. But I'm not excited about it. I'm not even kind of expecting it to happen. It's just what I have to do, man, because of the lineups that I'm facing. It sucks. Because those are 2 teams that I'm looking at. We got McMillan versus Carolina, Abdullah at New Orleans, or Blackshear at Tampa Bay. Joe, let us go. What do you got?
I actually like all 3 of these guys, and they're probably all really good DFS plays this week. Abdullah had a good game, his first game as a starter. Then the next game, he didn't do much, but then he was pretty good again last week, especially in the passing game. So I like him a little bit. McMillan's been decent for Tampa too, kind of coming on as the number 2 wide out. And is out today at tight end for them, so they're down a target. They do have to win too, coming off that. That was, for me, that was the biggest head scratcher of last week. The Cowboys get eliminated by 7 p.m. Sunday night, and I don't know how the Buccaneers don't go out and win that game on Sunday night, just from a motivation perspective. But that is what it is, which gets me into a whole nother thing as far as with your fantasy lineup in a Super Bowl, it kind of is what it is. You have your roster, obviously, in whatever is left on waivers. But from a DFS perspective, as far as these teams now, whether it's a Kansas City or whether it's a team like a Carolina, do you stay away from, and then I'm going to answer this question too, but one thing in my mind is, do you stay away from guys who have nothing to play for now? Or are we comfortable playing guys who have nothing to play for as far as that? I feel like that's the biggest mind screw the last couple of weeks of this season. That being said, as far as this goes, I do like McMillan. I like Abdullah a little bit, but here I do think Blackshear is the way to go. He's, I think, guaranteed probably the most volume out of these 3 guys. Tampa did not look very good on Monday night against the Cowboys. Carolina's offense has looked better over the last 6 weeks than it's probably looked in the last couple of years. So here I would go Blackshear.
I like it. What do you say here, Joe? Jeff?
So I'll tell you, and I appreciate Joe's take. I think if we're looking at it, the consensus might be of the three, Abdullah is the lowest that we're looking at. So it kind of comes down to Blackshear or McMillan. The tough part is, and I definitely get, it's kind of tie goes to the running back thing. So that would lead me to Blackshear. But McMillan, even though Tampa didn't have a good game, he has 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games, and he's getting a decent amount of targets. So that makes me pause and think that he might be a decent play at home versus Carolina versus Blackshear on the road in Tampa Bay. So I'm leaning a little bit McMillan just because hopefully he continues that hot streak of having at least 1 touchdown. So we'll see what happens there. Before I let you answer this one, Mike, because we were just talking about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and everything else, it reminded me of, do you guys recall draft day when they had a camera on probably about 15 Buffalo Bills fans when their draft pick was up and Josh Rosen was also in that draft. And all these guys are like, they're obviously both named Josh. So these guys are like Rosen. And then they say Josh Allen, and these guys lose their mind. Like they just lost everything. And what a bummer. And it's hilariously to see that now. If you have the contrast from what the hell happened to Josh Rosen to Josh Allen, it's hilarious to see that video going forward. Anyway.
Was that Arizona who drafted
Rosen? Yeah, Rosen got drafted by Arizona. Thought he was going to do well. I think he maybe played 1 year, didn't do shit, and was a backup perhaps for a couple of years. I don't know what he's doing right now. I mean, he might be in Tommy DeVito's basement with his parents. We have no idea. So, but the video of those Bills fans is comedy gold if you want to check that out.
Yeah, let's check that out.
I digress. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I still that draft class and that draft time. I just remember Josh Allen getting smeared on Twitter, and I was like, yes, he can actually be a Bronco. And I remember watching the Broncos draft Bradley Chubb, and that will forever be a nightmare in my brain because we could have just as easily pulled the trigger on Josh friggin' Allen. Although Bo Nix has looked good, you saw towards the end there what that guy brings to the table. Sorry I didn't answer this one. Blackshear for me here, unless this is a standard league, that would be my one caveat to that. Is if this is a standard league, I think I'm going to play McMillan because that guy does have the tendency to fall in the end zone more often than either other guy on this list. But I feel like Blackshear is definitely going to be your higher volume play as far as these guys because, again, Brian Robinson Jr. over there, he sucks in everything in between the 20s. It's just outside of those 20s. He's not effective anymore. Philly or Tampa defense? Jeff, what do you think here?
Philly or Tampa? You can tell you're getting down to the end of the season where you're getting questions about the defense, and you really kind of get down to the nitty gritty of, man, those could be the difference. That's right. Those few points could be that one sack here and there. You never know what the difference is. Matter of fact, again, not to go off on another tangent, there was one of my first year in Joe's CT NFL league. It came down to the last play on the last drive of Monday Night Football. My opponent had Peyton Manning, and who, if he completed one more pass, was going to go over the 400-yard bonus and beat me. And then Peyton Manning threw an interception, and I won. But I digress. Philly or Tampa? I'm saying Philly. I think that their defense has just been better the second half of the year. I mean, both these games are division games, but you have more of that division rivalry thing with Philly, and Dallas than you do Tampa and Carolina. You don't look at the NFC South as anything as far as rivals. You just don't look at it that way. NFC East, you have much more of that rivalry, and Philly just wanted to beat the crap out of Dallas and embarrass them a little bit. So both of them aren't bad plays. I go Philly, though. What do you guys think?
What do you say here, Joe?
Yeah, it is tough. Like, I wonder, is the Philly defense getting all juiced up today? Because, A, it is the Cowboys, and that is a good point from Jeff. That is a legit rivalry. Tampa, Carolina certainly is not. And is the Philly defense getting jacked up today saying, hey, we got to pick up the offense today with no Jalen Hurts in this game? Tampa, 2 weeks ago, I would have been higher on Tampa. Again, I'm just scratching my head based on what they did last week. Now it is Carolina they get this week, which is a nice matchup. But Carolina's been better lately too. So I think I'm probably going Philly here. And real quick, just because it's Super Bowl week, there's all sorts of scenarios happening. But just to talk about close games, and here's one. And I don't know, from a commissioner perspective, what you guys would do, or anybody listening if you're a commissioner in your league. So I had Jalen Hurts last week. I chose to start Jalen Hurts over Jaden Daniels last week. So by 2:30 p.m., I was crying, thinking I lost my semifinal game. Luckily, I had Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson. So going into the Sunday night game last week, I'm up 1 on my opponent, 175 to 174. They're all done. I have the Dallas kicker left. So at like 7 p.m., Dallas officially gets knocked out of the playoffs. I go up a point, and now all of a sudden I'm thinking, fuck, Dallas just gets eliminated. What happens if they trot Aubrey out in the first quarter? He misses a 55-yarder, and then for the rest of the game, they're just like, screw it, we're not kicking any more field goals. But then they don't score any touchdowns either. Like, am I going to lose this point lead? So I waived him, and I picked up the Green Bay kicker. And then I'm like, because Green Bay's playing Monday night. But then I'm like, well, why don't I just sign an inactive kicker? Because again, like you can't really worry about it. But like with defenses and kickers, it's realistic. It's hard to do, but it's realistic that they could finish with negative points. So the question became in the league, is it ethical in that situation to ditch your kicker and pick up and put an inactive kicker in that spot to protect the 1 point lead in the risk of your kicker ending with negative points? Or do you feel like as a commissioner, there should be a rule that says you're obligated and responsible to trot out? That's a really good one that Boss Man. Let's just shift. Boss Man just said Jonathan Taylor or A-Chain today.
I mean, Joe, your attention's just bouncing all over the place. Can we stay?
I know, but we got to get to the customers.
Yeah. Touche.
Well, I will say on this one, Philly defense, for me, it's not really that close. I think that Tampa Bay is going to be more of a shootout. I think Phillies should be able to shut down. I think it's going to be a game of attrition with them where you're going to see a lot of Saquon Barkley, but let's get to the
Joe,
customers, as Joe likes to say.
Joe, customized. Joe, lay off the Adderall and let's
Maybe just share the Adderall. I mean, it just depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on there, Jeff. We got Boss Man says, hope you guys had a great holiday, man. Likewise, right back at you. Merry holidays, Merry Christmas, Merry Kwanzaa, whatever everybody, Happy Hanukkah, whatever what everybody celebrates. I hope you had a good, safe one. I hope you drank lots of alcohol.
Hold on. Mike just said Merry Holidays. What are we in? What is that? Trading Places? Merry New Year.
Feeling good, Billy Ray.
And happy new days to everybody. We have pick one, Jonathan Taylor or Devin A-Chain. Joe, what do you think?
Before last week, I would have said A-Chain for sure. Jonathan Taylor had that huge game last week, and now they got Flacco going. No Tua. Both teams don't have their quarterback, and both teams need to win. I think I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor because I think the Cleveland defense at this point in the season probably has more of a heartbeat than the Giant defense.
I actually agree with that. I'm feeling like Jonathan Taylor is the guy to play here. I think that they're going to have to lean on him a little bit harder with Joe Flacco, who has not looked as good in his last few starts as he did at the beginning of the season. I think he's one of those guys that just kind of gets tired of playing quarterback. So you could see him kind of rise to the challenge today. But I still like Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. And I have to say that you got to assume that the Indianapolis defense is going to be on the field more so than the Miami defense, especially with them going up against Indy going up against the Giants. So yeah, and with Flacco there, it gives me even more reason to go Jonathan Taylor. So let me roll that way. And of course, we all say that now A-Chain is going to go off for 40.
Well, one thing real quick about A-Chain though, if this is like a full point PPR, I would pause because I'm looking at A-Chain. His last 4 games, he's caught 6, 7, 6, and 8 passes. which is pretty legit numbers. Now they have no quarterback today, so I don't know how that changes. But
right.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the customers then, Joe. So what else we got going next?
Because that's all. That's what our.
I thought that's a compliment.
Customers, is that all I am to you, Joe? He says, like,
just good for that cash, man. Just good for that cash. I tell you.
He's not talking about you there, Randy. When he's saying that, he's because you're basically part of the show, my man. So
that's true.
He's talking about everybody else.
You know, like those people who asked us who to start between Jordan Addison and Tommy DeVito this year. Those customers.
Trans-Siberian. Let's save the comments for the customers, okay? Just lay off the comments for a few. Save it
I
for
don't
the
even know where that word came from.
Yeah, the one thing we never worry about is at least return customers, because we love to tell you things like, don't start Jordan Addison, start the quarterback.
Well, and funny you bring that up, and we talk about this is the final. You know, Blitz won't be next week, obviously. So, and we'll keep you guys posted, and we'll get into that at the end of the show. But you want to talk about? We've had some really good takes. We'll talk about the worst take of the season by far was the Tommy DeVito super flex play over Jordan Addison. I think that it doesn't get worse than that when Addison went off for God knows how many yards and 3 touchdowns. So,
not by comparison when you talk numbers, dude. Yeah, that was just shameful as far as how that day ended. Like, hey, I mean, look last week if you want to see my progression reaction when I almost started crying on live there again. But he's just a translator. He says he's just a trick to him. That's all it is, man.
That's it, man. That's it. I tell you, all day.
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna have to start getting this guy on here because he's just been such a part of it. We'll have to make sure we get him on next season. And yeah, we'll definitely keep everybody posted in the offseason what's going on. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. We'll keep you posted. We also have Brian Robinson or Instagram for the what do you think here, Jeff?
I mean, I tell you, if we're talking Snapchat or Instagram, I'll do the Bill Belichick approach. Give me the what do you call it? The face chat or the Insta chat or Snap face. I don't know, but Brian Robinson has been brought up a bunch today, and it's an interesting one. So San Francisco's at home against the 49ers. That's Monday Night Football. Or do you go
Detroit?
Right, against Detroit? I mean, 49ers don't really have much to play for at this point except for pride. So, but I'm leaning Isaac Instagram from the Niners a little bit over Robinson, thinking that maybe Daniels might take a rushing touchdown away from Robinson. But that to me, that's just a little bit of a hunch, and that's really all that it is, honestly.
I don't mind that. So for me, I feel like this is actually going to be the one time you can get me on Brian Robinson. I have not liked what I've seen out of Isaac Guerrero with the opportunities that he's had. In fact, everybody outside of Jordan Mason this season, I mean, even Christian McCaffrey didn't really look that good with this line and everything like that. Like, he still looked better than most, right? It was still Christian McCaffrey. But to me, I didn't really like what I saw with any running backs this year outside of Jordan Mason. That's whatever hodgepodge they've thrown in there, and that includes Isaac Guerrero. With Brian Robinson, I feel like I'm going to get a little bit more of a consistent. Again, we're only looking at in between the 20s with this guy, because once you get inside of the red zone, they seem to be leaning more towards McMillan. And, you've also got the threat of Jaden Daniels rushing it in from outside anything, 5-10 yards out. So for me, Brian Robinson is still the play here. But it's just because I haven't liked what I've seen out of Isaac Guerrero. What do you think, Joe?
It's a tough one. I don't – to Jeff's point, you could stack up the whole season and there's like one guy each week like clearly gets brought up more, whether it's a new guy starting because of an injury or a really good player who maybe – whatever it is. This week it's certainly Brian Robinson, and I don't know. I mean, 2 fumbles last week. They still won the game. And again, no Eckler, so it's not like they have a ton of choice. I think Robinson has to stay relevant in the lineup, but both you and Jeff said it, like the idea that Jaden Daniels could easily steal those rushing touchdowns from him. I think if the 49ers, if it was a better matchup than Detroit, I'd be more apt to try the Niners back. But because it is Detroit, I mean, Detroit could go up 21-0 early, and then the 49ers don't run the ball anymore. I'm gonna err on the side of Brian Robinson. Wow, look at that. Fantasy Pro says start Brian Robinson over AJ Brown 94-6.
How about you wait for Mike to post that before you read it? I mean, that's just maybe.
It's so funny. I forget to even go to that section every show. And today I finally remembered, and I guess I'm probably better off forgetting.
That's funny. No, I mean, like that's he messaged me that on the side there when I was kind of talking to him DM wise, and he mentioned that, and he actually showed me the poll sitting there, and I'm like, holy crap, man, that's crazy to think of. Do you guys agree with that? Because like, dude, so what I said to him is like, so this is my philosophy, and it's always been my philosophy. And the first time I said this was Antonio Brown, oddly enough, is because one time it was freaking, I want to say like 25 below, something like that in Pittsburgh. It was like Le'Veon Bell was injured. Roethlisberger was injured, but he was playing. There was everything was stacked up against Antonio Brown. And I was like, I have to bench him. So I benched Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had like 11 catches for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns that game. And I can just say this, losing with Antonio Brown on my bench was so bad because I would have kicked the shit out of my opponent had I played him, right? Like I'd have won by like 30 points and I ended up losing by like 8 points or something. And so I've always had a philosophy. I'd rather lose with this guy on my team, the guys that got me here, than lose with him on my bench. That's my take. What do you guys think here?
Well, so I'll get to Joe, but the reason it's saying that is now, is this league standard scoring? Because if you flip to half PPR, then you're talking 68% AJ Brown. So the 94% is the standard scoring. If it's half PPR, or I'd have to switch
I'm
it.
Impressed right now. This is look at Jeffrey.
Let me see here. Full PPR goes up to 80% AJ Brown. So if this is standard scoring, yeah, go running back. Half PPR or full PPR, then you're talking AJ Brown for sure.
And even standard scoring, I think you've sold me on AJ Brown because and they're talking about this game on ESPN, and it just reminded me, Philly hasn't even clinched the division yet. So with that loss last week. So, I mean, this game is still a very relevant game for Philadelphia, despite obviously no Jalen Hurts. I don't know. And Mike, I'm with you 100%. Like, it's one thing, you got to make a decision between Nico Collins and JSN. They're both great. Or the other one, we had Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen. All great choices. You're basically flipping a coin, taking a shot. What are you going to do? But to your point, like if you're going to go out on a limb, something like this, I'm with you. Like I can't handle benching AJ Brown and losing by the 15 points that he outscored Brian Robinson by. So I'm with you in this scenario and in general by that rule. You got to go with the people that got you there. I think the thing with Brian Robinson that's so alarming, not in this situation, but in a situation where you want to play him, was that it was 2 fumbles last week. And to both of your points, Jaden Daniels can easily take these rushing touchdowns away from him, which just feeds into more AJ Brown in this scenario, in my opinion.
Well, when like I said, I mean, you've also got McMillan in there stealing touches as well, touches and touchdowns. So, I mean, like that to me makes me lean away from him even a little bit more. Yeah. But again, I mean, to me, it just really boils down to that one simple thing. Like, I mean, there's very few guys that are going to fit that category. You're going to be like Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson. Those guys all have bad matchups too. All the time, but those guys are usually good enough where they can actually kind of outdo a bad matchup. And I just, and to me, Kenny Pickett is a bad matchup. I mean, that's putting you at a disadvantage, but when you're as good as AJ Brown can be, I mean, the guy he can score, and he can also be a guy that you can just kind of huck the ball near and he can start doing damage with it. So, I mean, To me, it's tough. It's close, though, you know. Let's see here. He said, good fact check, Jeff. He looks at standard. He did look at standard. Yeah, look at Jeff go. He's going to Trans-Siberian. He's always going to have a beef with you.
Hey, man.
Dave Davis hates that you guys always
That was solid.
You know, I do it for the customers. That's really what it is. I tell you, it's just for the love of the customers.
Gotta live for the customers there for sure. Guys, that looks like we got us all caught up on questions and answers and everything like that. That's going to wrap us up. This is going to be the series finale for the year. Again, stay in touch with us because we love our Triple Play Fantasy home here. But we'll definitely be looking at some different aspects at the end of the season here. So, but make sure you're following at Triple Play Fantasy. Joe, Jeff, do you guys have anything to add besides Happy New Year, everybody? Make sure, again, you're just staying in touch with us on the side, please. No
doubt. And for all the customers out there, Merry New Year.
Merry New Year's. Merry holidays while you're at it. Joe, do you got anything to add to it?
Miss wants to know what I will do without you. That's great. Well, you've got the VIP package, so you know where to find us when necessary. No, it's been a roller coaster of a season, and it's been phenomenal. This has been great. Trans-Siberian, Boss Man, a couple other guys rode with us week to week, which I really, really love that and appreciate everybody. And I am already looking forward to next year. Yeah, absolutely. And next year, to answer your question that we got online, that I got on the side, we will be likely having a listener league next year. And with whatever the buy-in is, dude, I will buy you in. We'll make sure that you're in Trans-Siberian. That's how cool you are to me. You've always been a very important part of this program, but also as well, Joe, Jeff, couldn't have done this without you guys. So we appreciate you guys. One love, everybody. Enjoy your New Year's. Make sure you do your resolution for at least 3 weeks, or else it's not really a resolution. And again, thank you guys, and we will see you guys. Probably a little bit of dynasty stuff in the off season, but we'll see. Again, like, make sure he says no handouts. I love it. I love you, Trent. It's not a handout when you're when you've done everything you've done for us, my man. But again, thank you guys so much, and we will see you again hopefully before next year. Again, follow us on Twitter, follow Triple Play, get updated, guys, and thank you so much for everything. We love you. Take care. Be safe.